On July 10, 1999, a day like any other in suburban Long Island, 30-year-old Eve Brown Eskins, her husband Larry, and her parents Bonnie and Jay all attended a Mets baseball game at Shea Stadium. Fun ensued, and Eve's parents decided to leave early to avoid traffic. They had no idea that this would be the last time that they would see their daughter alive. Upon arriving home later in the evening, Eve informed her husband that she had plans to meet a former coworker and friend named Tessa. Eve was 5 months pregnant at the time, newlywed, and was settling into their new home in Plainview, Long Island. Life was looking good for the couple. Their marriage was described as being, quote, idyllic, and they both held professional jobs that afforded them the comforts they needed. The friend that she intended to meet up with lived in Freeport, a nearby town. According to Larry, Eve departed their home at approximately 7:30 p.m. in her 1994 black Geo Prism car. As he was dozing off in the bedroom, she reportedly said to him, quote, I'll probably find you in the same position when I get home. Larry proceeded to get dinner at a local Fuddruckers, capping his night off by playing online video games. As the hours ticked by, Larry at first was not concerned that he hadn't heard from his wife. She was, after all, supposed to be enjoying a night out with an old friend. However, when the clock struck midnight, Larry's patience soon transformed to dread. He began paging Eve and watching every car that drove by, hoping it was her, and that this was all just a big misunderstanding. By the next morning, Eve had not arrived home. Larry informed Eve's parents, prompting them to call the former coworker and friend, Tessa, who Eve had indicated she was going to be spending time with the prior night. This is where reality surely came crashing down for the family. The woman informed them that there were no plans for her and Eve to meet up for dinner, as she was currently out of the country in the Dominican Republic for a funeral. According to the phone records, Eve placed a call to her voicemail at the family counseling business she ran sometime after leaving their home around 7:40 p.m. She was never spotted alive again, and there was no reported use of her ATM cards or cell phone following this final call. In the weeks following her disappearance, law enforcement combed through every contact they found in her address book. They looked into potential connections with her clients, looked through secure parking lots in the area, airports, in the general vicinity of where she was last known to be located, all unfortunately to no avail. At this point in the case, her car had not been found either, something which local law enforcement noted to be strange, presumably because of the heavy police presence and surveillance in Long Island and New York City in general. Her case was eventually transferred from the Missing Persons Unit to the Homicide Bureau in order to better aid in the investigation. Meanwhile, Eve's family hung in limbo with very little in way of updates or clues as to what happened to their pregnant daughter. 6 weeks after her disappearance, her stripped-down car was found in an alleyway in Flatbush, Brooklyn. The license plates, an airbag, and other parts had been stripped from the car, but investigators reportedly found no signs of violence or a struggle. According to police, there were other stolen cars found in the same alleyway, and it was clear that at multiple points people had been rummaging through the car in order to steal its parts. It is unknown to this day how or why her car got to this alleyway and who put it there. 1 year later, on November 15, 2000, construction crews made a grisly discovery while digging up a remote and weeded 230-acre vacant landfill near Kennedy International Airport that was set to become the site of a luxury shopping mall. Wrapped inside 7 plastic trash bags and bound with rope, they discovered the decomposed remains of a woman who, according to authorities, appeared to have been deceased for less than 2 years. Shockingly, the next day, they found another set of human remains about a half-mile away belonging to an unidentified male who, interestingly, this giant swath of abandoned land that was used as a city landfill had been a known dumping site for Ray DeMeo, a mobster that was active in New York City in the 1960s. The area was bordered by Starrett City, a housing development project that was built in the same era. It was said that the only views afforded to these residents were of various vacant dumping sites and the swampy waters surrounding them. The newest development in the area at the time was the Gateway Mall, where Eve was discovered. It was a murky, isolated area, making it a place where crimes could be hidden without reprisal. The deceased woman was identified via dental records as being the missing pregnant woman, Eve Brown. The man's remains are unidentified to this day, but police confirmed at the time that the two cases were in fact not connected. To this day, Eve's fate remains unknown. How she died or who the perpetrator of her death is may never be brought to light, but her family remains hopeful for answers regardless. At some point, her husband ended up leaving their home and moving away, and has not made any public comment on the case since the discovery of her remains. Shockingly, a potential theory involves an eerie set of connections to the Long Island serial killer uncovered by the website Murder Inc. In July of 2023, Rex Heuermann, a resident of Massapequa Park on Long Island, was arrested in Manhattan and initially charged in the murders of 3 of the Gilgo 4 victims. In January of 2024, it was announced that he was going to be charged with the 4th victim, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, as well. Coincidentally, Rex Heuermann's home in Massapequa was approximately 2 miles from Eve Brown's parents' residence. Also, records showed that on October 26, 2000, Heuermann filed a permit for a building on 84th Street in Howard Beach, a mere mile east of the construction site where Eve Brown's remains were discovered a month after the fact. Curiously, 4 days later on November 19, 2000, the dismembered torso of Long Island serial killer victim Valerie Mack was discovered in a garbage bag placed inside of other bags in Manorville, New York. More of her body parts were later recovered during a search on Ocean Parkway in 2011. She was identified in 2020. 4 days after this, the remains of Manorville John Doe No. 1 were discovered in the woods off of the Long Island Expressway in Shirley near Monroeville. He had been strangled and dumped in his underwear. In 2002, the Suffolk County Police Department made this statement about the cases, quote, "The homicide department is not considering the possibility of a connection between the cases, including the chance of a serial killer roaming the South Shore." And that opinion seems to hold true to this day. Eve Brown is not currently listed as a potential connected case on the official Gilgo website, nor is the other set of remains that was found near her. Other than the odd connections between Rex Heuermann and Eve, there is very little media coverage aside from when the crime was unfolding, and to this day there have been few investigative updates. We can only hope that someday her family receives the answers that they so desperately want. The bulk of information that was used to make this video came directly from the meticulous research done over at Murder Inc. I urge all of you to check out their website for further information on Eve's case, as well as the potential connection to Rex Heuermann and other cold cases that have similar connections. Thank you for watching.